All right. I decided to try out what it would be like to completely rupture my ACL playing sport and trying to be an athlete. So I guess I can expect to be getting a few more videos filmed in this here office due to my current constraints. What is up, everybody? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Pierce Dillon, and today we are talking vertical video, why you should be doing it, and just a couple of little tips just to help you out along the way. So, with a large majority of content being viewed on mobile device these days, screen real estate really comes into play. Now, what that is the amount of room that your video or piece of content is going to take up on the mobile screen at any one time. Now, in a pretty ridiculously hectic world, you've probably got about a couple of seconds to catch your viewers' attention while they're scrolling one of the social media platforms. And you want to try and take up as much room as you can, because in that brief moment, you want to try and capture them. It needs to be big and in your face. So to me, taking up the whole screen or a good portion of it is just more visually pleasing and engaging. When I see something that takes up a big chunk instead of just that small portion, like you see a horizontal video that might be uploaded to Instagram, I just find it nicer to watch. Now, there is times that I have uploaded videos and I can't bring myself to crop it vertically, and I've had to leave it horizontal just because I liked it the way it was. So it's not always, the rule that you have to crop it vertically. It's just that 90% of the time it will be better for your viewer when they're watching it. Now, to back this up, you've got big companies, brands, and manufacturers that are actually spending a portion of their marketing advertising budget specifically on vertical video. So I recently saw movie trailers that were edited specifically for mobile and they were vertical. Although I didn't like the movie and the movie themselves, I was intrigued by it, so I watched the whole thing. And much more engaging to see it like that rather than seeing it on a tiny little horizontal rectangle. Rectangle is the word I'm trying to get. Then you've also got manufacturers, car manufacturers that are using stories, Insta stories and Snapchat stories that are specifically filmed and edited vertically for mobile. And I guess what I'm saying is it's not going to go away. So the short version is your content is going to perform better, whether it's just something personal for your own feed or if it's for a paying client, which in turn is going to make them happier as well. Tip numero uno. Now this one's going to be quite simple, but it is shooting specifically for vertical. Now, if you use your smartphone, your mobile phone to make videos, this is going to come quite naturally to you, because I'm sure at some stage of your life that you have uploaded a story to Instagram or Snapchat, letting the world know what you're doing, what you're having for breakfast. But if you're using a DSLR or whatever camera it is that you use, turning it on a side and filming like that is going to be a little bit weird. But it is going to benefit you so much more in editing, because rather than having a horizontal clip that you then need to zoom right in to fill the space, having it filmed vertically is just going to give you so many more pixels to play with, and in turn give you a much higher quality clip. I realize this is not always going to be practical and possible, but where you know that you're going to be filming something and editing it specifically to be for mobile, filming it vertically is going to have a much bigger impact on the final video. Following on from that, tip number 2 is your composition, and I realize you should be thinking about this regardless, but there is a couple of types of composition that work really well for that vertical style of filming. The first of those is filming taller subjects, so making use of that vertical space you've got while you're filming. Filming things like buildings, statues, monuments, even really tall people is just going to look really nice on this vertical mobile screen. The second one for me is maybe just my opinion, but symmetry. I really like symmetry when you're filming for mobile and filming vertically, because if you place your subject right in the middle, it's really nice. Now, if you're following the rule of thirds, it's okay to use that, but I find that placing a subject to the left or the right of the frame, you don't have that much room horizontally anymore, so it's just going to not work as well as if it was filmed horizontally using the rule of thirds. So symmetry for me is a big one. Like I said, that one could just be my opinion. The third one is making use of negative space. I really like this one because I film and shoot a lot of cars, so I really enjoy putting the car right at the bottom of the frame and then having all the sky or all of the whatever the space is above the car. You don't necessarily have to even use it for cars, but it's just anything. If you use the top or the bottom of the screen and then make use of that negative space, that works really well for the vertical style filming as well. So composition, like I said, you should be thinking about it regardless, but there is just some types of compositions that will, there's some types of composition that will work better for this style of filming. Tip number 3, if you filmed horizontally and you want to crop it to fit vertically, then aspect ratios come into play here. This also could be quite basic, but you need to know your aspect ratios. The most common ratio for horizontal is 16:9 or 1920x1080. I film in 1080, so I use those dimensions. If you wanted to edit something vertically and you were going to upload it for Insta Story, Snapchat, Facebook, or even Dayflash, then they allow a ratio of 9:16, the dimensions for that being 1080x1920. Now, if you're going to upload to Instagram, the max ratio that they allow for their feed or your grid is 4:5, which the dimensions for that are 1080x1350. I do upload a lot to Instagram, so I use that ratio quite a bit if the video is going to be less than a minute or a minute or less. If I'm going to be uploading something that's going to be longer than a minute, obviously I'll be using the IGTV feature, which also allows a max ratio of 9:16, i.e. full vertical. So the dimensions for that, again, are 1080x1920. What you need to take into consideration though is if you do that and tick the show preview button on your post, when it displays in the feed or on your grid, it's only going to display the 4:5 ratio. So you need to keep that in mind when you're editing, because you don't want stuff missing from that preview. It's just not going to look very good on the feed. Tip number 4, that's not a 4, that's a 4, is the new auto reframe feature in Premiere Pro, whatever you want to call it. This feature is going to save you a ton of time if you have filmed something horizontally and you need to edit it to be vertical. I'll show you what it does in the computer, but basically it is going to try and keep your subject in the vertical frame at all times and as much as it can. So normally you would have to add keyframes, moving the clip around, the position of the clip around to keep that subject in. This is going to do it for you. It also gives you the option to let it know if the movement in the clip is either slow or fast. So you can choose between those two. So you have a slow motion or a fast motion option there as well. So let's flick over and have a look how it works. Alright, so once you have Premiere Pro open, you want to be dragging your footage onto the timeline. I'm getting this message because I've created a vertical sequence and I'm using horizontal footage. So it's asking me if I want to change the sequence to match the clip settings. Obviously I've done this on purpose, so I don't want to do that. I'm just going to click keep existing settings. Now I'm using a clip of my lovely girlfriend here. So what we want to do first is scale that clip up to fill the whole frame. As you can see, she is no longer in frame and we'd have to play around with the position keyframes here to try and keep her in for the duration of the clip. This also has a bit of movement in it, this clip, so it's going to take a few keyframes to get her to stay there. Now if we just go up to effects and type in auto reframe and drag the auto reframe effect onto the clip, it's going to analyze really quickly and bang, she's in the center of the shot now. And if we play it through, it's going to keep her in there. Like I said, this is going to save you a ton of time if you're editing horizontal footage to be vertical. It makes me very happy because I do a lot of this, and I hope it makes you happy too. Tip number 5, if you're filming with your phone or your camera and you're filming vertically, then you want to avoid quick side-to-side movements. Obviously we have a much narrower horizontal field of view, so any side-to-side movement is going to be extremely exaggerated and it's going to be a lot harder for your viewer to process what's going on in the video. Now I realize that having that smaller horizontal field of view, you're going to need to reveal your scene, so smooth side-to-side pans and everything like that, they're perfectly okay. It's just going to be those quick side-to-side movements that you want to avoid. So that's it for me today, guys. I hope you learned something. I hope you took something away. Incoming generic YouTube call to action, like and subscribe. Look, if you did like this kind of thing, then I would really appreciate it if you did subscribe to the channel. You can obviously do whatever you want. It's your life and it's up to you. If you do choose to stick around, then I will see you next week. Hang on, phone call. Pete's calling me. Hey mate.
Hello mate, how are you?
I'm good, I'm just in the middle of filming a video, so you're now on the recording and the camera. Say hello.
Yes, hello.
This is your moment to shine, your time to shine.
Okay, we have great discounts on this week. We've got flash sale, we've got 40 cars in stock. Calm down.